Hey everybody, this is Buck. We are at Evolution Tattoo in Fairless Hills, PA, and we are with tattoo artist Kelly Lalama. I appreciate you doing this for me and taking the time out of your day to do this. I know you're real busy, and I know you have a good piece set up for today. I'm excited to see that. Yeah. I got to see the flash that you drew up for it, so that's pretty cool. Kelly, how long you been tattooing for?
I've been tattooing for like 6 years now. Okay. So I've been here at the shop the whole time. And this is where I actually did my apprenticeship. So I had maybe like about a year-long apprenticeship here.
What made you get into tattooing?
Well, I always wanted to do a career in art. I'd gone to school for illustration, so I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts at the Maryland Institute College of Art. It was in Baltimore. So I was from New Jersey, moved down there, and then moved back home. And I was working around kind of like Princeton. And that's when I sort of decided, like, I want to go into tattooing. I'd been a little intimidated at first because it seemed kind of, it's permanent. It's like needles. But I had some friends actually who had gotten into it first, so I was able to talk to them, and they kind of encouraged me to pursue it. And yeah, I love the history and the social aspect. I like being able to help people, have like agency over their body and be able to put something that is really personal, and all the different styles and stuff. It's just like it's a career that's always evolving too, so you never get bored.
So how did you end up here though?
I actually had a friend at my old job when I was working at a paint and sip studio in Princeton. It was called Pino's Palette. I think they're still open. It was at that time that I started doing research about, wanting to get an apprenticeship. And from this time I decided to become a tattoo artist and to try and pursue it, it happened really fast. Like, I was not expecting that to kind of move that quickly, but I knew a girl at the job I was at, and she lived in this area, and I think her brother knew the piercer here, so she said, oh, I know a shop that's actually looking for an apprentice. But at that point, I was just starting to do research. I was going around different shops. Mm-hmm. I started getting tattooed, just kind of talking to people, sort of trying to get, some information. I came by, and at that point, I was maybe like a year out of college. So I literally had one tattoo at the time. And I was like, I don't know if they're really gonna hire me. I don't know if I really look like a tattooer yet. But I came in with my portfolio, and I talked to the owner, and like, this is my artwork, really want to learn, and he offered me the position, so it was really cool.
So you're talking about your artwork. Let's get into your style. What would you say your style is?
I don't know if I have like a set style that I exclusively do. There are certain ones that I like really enjoy. Like, I really like doing neo-traditional, but sometimes people don't always ask for that as much. I kind of ended up getting into a lot of the watercolor style tattoos. It's a lot of fun for me because one of the things with like tattooing versus doing just like fine art is with tattooing, it's so much more like controlled. You have to be really particular, and you don't want to go outside of the lines, whereas with painting you can kind of be free. So when I kind of started experimenting with doing the watercolor ones, I really sort of found like a fun outlet that I felt like I could be a little bit more loose and kind of creative. So I would say I do really like doing stuff that's colorful. I like doing animal portraits. I'm trying to get more into portraiture. With painting, that was my favorite thing to do, is like portrait stuff. But with tattooing, there's so much nuance with it. So something I want more experience. But yeah, I mean, I like doing anything. I just like being able to do any kind of tattoo, really.
Do you have an Instagram page?
Yeah, I do. It's k.lalama tattoos, and I know my last name's a little funky. It's k.lalama tattoos. I don't always post too much, but I've been trying to be a little bit more active on it.
Okay. No, I always ask because I want to make sure everybody gets to see your work.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this, is to expose you to people that maybe didn't get a chance to see. So if somebody comes in with like a unique piece that they want to do, how do you kind of walk through that process with them? Specifically, I guess, if it obviously falls in your wheelhouse.
I like, sometimes if it's a piece that's more involved, I like doing a little bit of like a consultation time where, when you talk to the person trying to get tattooed, you can kind of find out like, they might have a reason for getting it. It might not be like a sentimental thing, but even if it's like, oh, I really like this kind of style and I saw something like this and it gave me this idea. The more kind of information I get from the person, and especially with that like face-to-face talking, it kind of helps me like get my ideas flowing. And a lot of times, like, I like to sort of draw on all different kind of styles and like all different things for inspiration, not even just like limited to tattoo art. So like the piece that I'm about to do tonight, it's like a Grim Reaper, but I bought this book that has all these like religious iconography, and it's got a lot of these like old like Virgin Mary pictures. And so even though it's like a Grim Reaper, something that's a little bit more spooky, I was thinking like, oh, I have this perfect photo. It's like Virgin Mary with the hood and stuff. So I kind of try and get as much from the person to figure out like their style, like what kind of tattoos they seem to enjoy. If there's like a theme they're looking for that particular area. Sometimes you get lucky and people are really open-minded to wanting to have it be something like, oh, this is kind of what I want, but you can put your spin on it. That's always fun. And then I like sketch it out, put it all together.
So with that being said, how do you work with like a challenging customer that, you get your idea together and you're like, all right, this is pretty badass. And then they come in and they want to change it or maybe do some difficult stuff that doesn't really work.
I feel like one of the things with tattooing that makes it kind of unique as like a career, it takes a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust that the individual has to put in you, and you have to also trust that they're gonna like accept your kind of like knowledge or your opinions or your guidance. And so usually like if somebody were to ask me to get a piece that I didn't know if it would hold up super well over time, or just something that I might kind of think, oh, I don't know if that's gonna look as good or the way they want, usually I try and explain it to them in a way that's, digestible, easy enough for them to understand, kind of talk to them as an equal. So it's not like I'm just like being, no, I'm not doing that because I don't want to. It's like when you give them more information of like, oh, you don't want it to look, lettering, you don't want to do lettering too small. Usually people are pretty understanding. And usually it's like you tell somebody, oh, I don't know if that idea is going to work as well. And they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And at the end of the day too, I don't mind like if somebody comes to me and I show them the drawing and they're like, oh, that's cool, but I really wanted something more like this. Like I would much rather take the time and change things around.
Right.
And usually it's the kind of thing that we can like edit or come to an agreement like that day. But, every now and then you get people who are either really particular or sometimes even if they're nervous, then they want to like nitpick. Every now and then, if somebody really has something that it's like we can't totally get agreed on, then I'll tell them like go home and think about it, and we can reschedule. Because at the end of the day, it is permanent,
And I think I ask this question a lot because there's expectations sometimes where people are like, I want to pack a bazillion lines and a stamp.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, man, it's really not going to come out looking that way, or it's not going to hold.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of get a feel for like, based on like the trends, even if you just go on like Instagram on the explore page of like the little micro tattoos, it's like you can see sometimes what people might ask for that isn't going to necessarily work as well in the long run. The only other thing that I do kind of to try and like deal with that is sometimes I'll try and think of ways like, well, how can I give this person something that they want, but do it in a different way so that it's going to look better over time. But again, it's something that I feel like the communication has to be there. You have to be able to like explain it to them. If you're nice about it, people are usually pretty open, but there is like that kind of like ethical line that as a tattoo artist, you have to sometimes put your foot down and say like, I know this is what you want, but I don't think it's a good idea.
I don't want to give you a shitty tattoo.
Yeah, I had a girl one time, she came in while I was already running late on a current appointment, and she wanted to get like a little heart, and she wanted it like right here. She showed me a picture on her phone where she had drawn it on with eyeliner, and it was so close, like under the eye. And I was like, that is gonna look like a blob. And so I'm telling her, I'm like, look, first of all, I can't do it right now anyway, because I'm in the middle of this appointment. And, you know, it's like almost 10 o'clock. She's like, well, what if you stay late? I'll give you extra money. And I'm like, you don't want me to rush a face tattoo. So usually when you explain it to people, most of the time they're understanding, but she did seem a little frustrated. And I was like, I'm just not going to do it though, you know?
That's a perfect example of a challenging customer. So that's You
got to stick to your guns sometimes.
I don't even know how you would stretch the skin enough to be able to do that.
Well, to
especially
me, it's like,
under there.
Yeah, the skin under your eye is just so thin that it's like, I've only done the sideburn area on the face. Like I would do here, but I haven't done anything near the eyes. It's like,
so can you tell us about a memorable or exciting project that you worked on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that sort of stand out to me are some of the projects when, it's like two things. It's either ones that have like a really like sentimental value to me, or if it's something that like it started off with a simple idea and then it just like expanded. For the sentimental thing, I got to tattoo my brother. That was really fun because he had never been tattooed. I wasn't sure. I would not have pictured him ever wanting one, but he was like, oh, I thought it'd be cool to get one from you. So that to me, it was like, that was a big deal. It was like, again, the trust. It's like, well, this is my own brother. It's pretty neat. As far as like projects, one client I can think of in particular, and like there's a lot of people like this, but he had started with something where it was like one piece expanded into being like an inside half sleeve. And the first part we stenciled, and it was kind of this cool mix of like, it was a lot of different things that I kind of had fun doing, because we had this like sketchy, big, bold, kind of like line work style. It was like a lotus, and then this really bright kind of watercolor burst behind it. And then the watercolor kind of like dripped down. And then on his forearm, we did like a jellyfish. And the jellyfish I ended up like freehanding. So it's kind of cool. The longer you work with somebody as a client, then, you know, they get to be comfortable with your work. And I've had people that I've done a lot of tattoos for them, and eventually, you know, sometimes I'm like, hey, this piece would be really cool if we just like draw it on directly. And those can be really cool for me, because that's something that I feel like right in the beginning of my career, I didn't really do it too often, just because it can be a little bit more like unpredictable, and you know, you want to be kind of sure like how everything's going to turn out. So I liked having my, you know, my references all ready to go. In the past like years, it's like an exciting challenge, because you can really like start off with something, you know, like a simple marker drawing, and you see it start to take shape. So it's fun because like the client gets to see it, you know, evolve. Yeah, but then you do too. So it's not like you already have this image in your head of like, this is exactly what it's going to be. It's kind of like you're both getting to see the process sort of like emerge.
That's why I'm a fan of sticking with the same tattoo artist.
Yeah, and then you get to know kind of like, all right, you know, I know that they can draw. I know that I'm comfortable with them, so I know that they can do this. Like, I think that same client, then on his other arm, we did like a trash polka thing that, again, it was something where like it started on the arm, went onto the bottom, went a little bit onto the chest, and you know, it was a style I hadn't really gotten to experiment with before, so that was really cool. Got to incorporate some like, you know, fun colors and stuff.
So how do you stay up to date with like current styles and stuff like that?
Well, honestly, a lot of it is like I do look at social media, and I do look at, you know, it's funny because everything tends to evolve. It was like at first you'd see everything's on Instagram. That's where everybody was showing off their art. And then now it's like other forms evolving. TikTok, you see a lot of artists posting on that. So it's like, I just try, and if I see somebody's work that I like, you know, I'll try and follow them. And then the more things you kind of start following, then it's like you get recommended stuff. So I do try and look at things that way. I always think it's cool getting to go to conventions and getting to talk like individually with artists, and even just seeing like what people are drawing, you know, like what people are coming up with. But the other thing is like what people are coming in with, you know, it's like people will come in and say, I want something like this. And you get to see sort of like the cycles of, you know, like, oh, all of a sudden people are asking for this style more when it wasn't as popular or kind of died down. Like there's this little kind of like resurgence now, like Tradl. So, there's a lot of different ways that you kind of see what's sort of coming back and cycling through.
So what advice would you give somebody that wanted to pursue a career as a tattoo artist?
I would say the main thing, don't be scared to like go out and do it. And don't be discouraged if it, like I kind of lucked out that for me, it was really like, I didn't really have to do too much like checking around before I found a really good shop that I've been at this whole time. Any of the times I would like talk to artists, even when I was starting out, you just want to get kind of as much connection as you can. So like do a lot of drawing, really kind of like build up a good body of work to be able to show somebody. And then just start going to shops that you like, start getting a feel for how they operate, start talking to different artists. And it'll be good even to see kind of like how different places run, because you want to work somewhere that you're going to feel like you're in a good environment, you can like thrive and yeah.
Is there anything I didn't ask you today that you think I should have brought up or that you want to mention?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much everything.
Awesome. I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for doing it.
Thanks for
It was
having
a
me.
great interview. I'm looking forward to showing everybody your work.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Hey, if you like this video, make sure you click on this next link here.